Hey everybody, this is Dan and Angela.
Hi everyone.
Hey, we wanted to do a video today. I had something that I thought was, very disturbing to me the other day. Somebody sent to me a thing from JW Updates. They have those things, the governing body, where they're talking, to the congregations and all of them and telling them all the new things that were coming. And I don't know why, but it was really, really, really disturbing to me. It really bothered me. It kind of reminded me of my picture right here where, the Watchtower, right here, these are all the sheeple, these are all the millions of people, and then you got these roofless people with big sticks, herding the sheep. And you got this blind guide up here. He's just a blind guide. He's got his walking stick, and this guy's got a big stick, and, they're not handling the flock very nice. And that's what I wanted to talk about today. That's what really bugged me. I was listening to Stephen Lett and I was listening to Tony Morris, and it was absolutely disgusting. For one, they were not talking from their heart. I watched them talk on teleprompters. It was gross. It was gross. Imagine they're looking at a monitor and saying, won't you be glad that you're going to get to meet face to face with your brothers? And they weren't even looking at the camera.
Oh, how weird.
There was nothing coming from their heart. And then, of course, we all know because we're outside, they don't have a heart. They don't care if they lie. They don't care if they false prophesy. They don't say they're sorry for their false prophecies. They just say the light got brighter, which is, what Satan does, right? He says the darkness is light and the light is dark. But anyway, I was listening to him, and he was, they were ramping up about meeting attendance again. They say, won't you be glad, that we're going to get back to face with our brothers? And I can understand that to some degree. They get to meet together after a couple years. But what's disgusting just about that part, okay? About the part of meeting together. Why were they the last? We had it preached into us that we were supposed to go door to door no matter what, right? And we know the pandemic happened, right? And everybody shut down, and witnesses were like the first, right? Oh man, let's turn the lights off, and they did, right? But then when it came time to open up, they were a year later.
So they're the last. They were the first to close down,
and the
last to get it open again.
Yeah, and the last to open. And yet, do not forsake the gathering of yourselves together, as some have the custom, but all the more so, brothers. And so I found it funny, but I realized we all know why they left it shut down, because they were having so much enjoyment off selling Kingdom Halls, right? They were selling them off by the thousands. Literally, they're selling off Brooklyn, making billions and billions of dollars, right?
It would be a way that they could get a whole lot of things done without anybody really knowing about it.
Yeah.
Right? Because you don't meet, you don't get to ask for any questions, you don't see the elders, you don't get to, you're just kind of out of touch for the most part, right? Very little communication. That's very effective.
Yes, it's very effective. So anyway, so what they did was they started selling these things off like crazy. They were kind of depleting their infrastructure, right? They were selling off not only Kingdom Halls, but convention centers and these big things, that took hundreds of thousands to build. You know what I mean?
Oh my gosh.
And so they were selling off convention centers and sadly, they were selling them, as a lot of us know, to churches, marijuana clinics.
Oh.
And I was thinking about that. I was thinking, my God, could you imagine? You built this Kingdom Hall. You were so glad. I was thinking about this, because I built a lot of them, right, with a lot of you brothers, right? And when we got done, we sat down on the floor because the chairs weren't in yet, and we thanked Jehovah, and we dedicated it to Jehovah. And then they sell it. They say, well, it's just a building. But here's the thing. Who did they sell it to? Who did they sell it to? Would you sell a Kingdom Hall to a Pornhub? Oh, God, no. Well, that's what you said Babylon the Great was, right? A harlot, right? And yet you sold thousands of them, hundreds of them, to churches. The very thing you told us to stay out of, you say, hey, we got a wonderful built hall. It was built by our brothers' wonderful hands. These are quality buildings.
And anointed, how do you guys say that? Anointed and prayed over.
Blessed and prayed over and dedicated to Jehovah.
There we go.
And yet we give them to Babylon the Great to further their work. And I've done some videos on that. So anyway, I was watching this video, and it was just making me sick. It made me think of this picture back here of these ruthless men who lie and lie again and lie again and lie again. And anyway, they were ramping up, won't you be glad to meet face to face? Won't you be glad to see the brothers? And they were showing little clips of people saying, oh, it's so wonderful to be back together. And then they said, won't you be glad we're going to actually start the preaching work again? And I was like, whoa, yeah, you know what I mean? We're going to start it up again. And us outside, we see what's going on, right? They got to get that engine going again. We know you can't sell people over the phone, right? That's a thing in the car dealerships. You can't sell a car over the phone because people ask for your best deal and call somewhere else and ask for the best deal. So you've got to get them in the hall. You've got to invite them over for dinner. You've got to do this. So they realized, they've got to get this engine going again. What engine? We got to get the paradise ramped up again. Don't you want to be in paradise? Don't you want to see your kids? And I'm so sick of these guys holding that over these families.
Well, especially because 100 more plus years they've been saying it was going to end.
Yes.
And then they let it die for 2 years after the pandemic, and then they, oh dear, I guess it's going on, so we're going to ramp it up again. I mean, what did we learn, Dan?
Nothing. And they're bartering with the kids. They're looking at the families and saying, we're this close. Don't you want to get into paradise? And this is the one I hate the most. Don't you want to see your loved ones again? Don't you want to see that one little one that passed again? Why? Why would I listen to these guys, right? And they also said, you won't believe what I'm about to tell you. And if you don't believe me, go on jw.org, updates, and listen to Tony Morris and Stephen Lett and David Splain. And they're going to talk about the need for kingdom halls. Can you believe that? They said they need 15,000 kingdom halls. And they need 1,500 of them built this year. 1,500. Can you believe this, guys? Can you believe this?
Makes no sense.
So see what they're doing? They're getting the engine going again, right? Get those slaves back into the meetings. Get them back going door to door. Pandemic's gone. Yeah, we sold off millions of dollars in kingdom halls.
And why did they do that, Dan? Because they needed to pay off the court fees and whatnot.
That's one of the reasons,
right? Or what else?
Yeah, and who knows what they're doing with their money, right? Who knows what they're doing? Nobody ever asked. Nobody ever asked. No, it just goes into a black hole. All your labor.
And to make the media centers, that might be another reason.
That's right. That's right. So it just sickened me when I heard them say they need 15,000 more kingdom halls. And 1,500 of them this year. I thought, you liars, you just sold off thousands and thousands. So anyway, it was just incredible. So here's what I got. Here's what I thought. Go ahead.
If anything, it's a complete mismanagement of money.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And them not being transparent. I mean, Salvation Army and people that do good for those people that are struggling in the world, they have full 100% accounting. Boise Rescue Mission, Denver Rescue Mission, I know for a fact they give a full accounting of every bit of monies, of where it's going, every last red cent. And that's what it needs to be. Otherwise, it's not honest. Just saying.
Yes.
So weird.
That's right. There's been no accounting in there. That's a good point. And I think what Angela said too, they're building a multi-million-dollar center, right?
More than one.
Media in a couple places in the world. And they're asking and begging for donations, something they haven't done before. But they're becoming ruthless. What I'm seeing is these slave owners, governing body, are becoming ruthless. I mean, they're telling you, you better listen to us like your life depends on it, because it does. Now, I find it interesting. That was an interesting thing Stephen Lett said. He said, you better listen to us like your life depends on it, because it does. And he was referring to himself and governing body. And yet, on the other hand, they're saying they're not spirit anointed. They're saying, on the other hand, we're the only ones who hear Jehovah's voice. Jesus said he's given us the spiritual food to feed you, which makes them a channeler. They're the medium. I don't care what anybody says out there. A lot of people say, oh, Dan, you're exaggerating. You can't call them mediums. You can't call them channelers. They are the channel. They said
they say they aren't, but yet they are.
Yeah, they say they aren't. When it comes to liability, what do? We're just men, imperfect men. My brother, biggest one of all. Danny, they're imperfect men doing the best they can do. I'm sorry you sold your house, and I'm sorry you didn't get life insurance, and I'm sorry Grandpa passed in 75, and Uncle Bob, and the generation prophecy, and all the family, and all of that. We're really sorry, but Danny, they're good men. They're good. No. These men said, you better listen to us like your life depends on it. And now they're using death threats. Toni Morris, those out there, the Jehovah's enemies. Won't you be glad when they're all dead? Woo-wee. Psychopath, won't you be glad when they're all dead? These guys beating the flock. And think about it. I got a question for Jehovah's Witnesses. How long will you try to buy paradise? How long will you pay? Think about it. You've given up your whole life. You've given up your education. You've given up all your skills. Don't think your only skill was to handle a mic, right? Don't think that was your only skill, handling a mic. Don't think your only skill was going up and reading a Watchtower. You witnesses, you women, don't think your only skill was to pioneer. You were to be artists, writers, right? I mean, whatever it is you could dream up. You were amazing people, but instead, you've given up careers. You've given up your families. Think about that. You've even let Watchtower destroy your family. Think about that. Don't associate with them. He left. He's got 2 to 10 years before he comes back. Do you think that's fair? 2 to 10 years. Would you put your kid in a timeout, your teenager, for 2 to 10 years because he back-talked you and told you to go to hell?
Never.
And he was going to do his own thing and he left home for a week? Would you kick him out of the house for 2 to 10 years? The witnesses would. You know what I mean? So Watchtower has had that kind of power over your life. So it's starting to make me wonder. The Watchtower has been exposed, people. The Watchtower is exposed for exactly who they are. They're liars. They're liars. And they don't apologize for their lies. Has anybody apologized over 1977? The false prophecy? Has anybody called them? Has anybody apologized over the generation prophecy? The generation prophecy, they just they swept it under the rug like it never happened. Oh, let's just let that one go by. The 70 or 80 years from 1914, let's just sweep that under. Then they did an overlapping because they had to get something going again, right? They had to get everybody's focus on the end, right? But I just wonder, I think, man, they've been exposed in every way. They've changed their doctrine over and over and over.
Oh, yeah. And Dan, honestly, the very thing that they say, this is a fact. But what you accuse other people of all the time is typically what is going on with you, is what you are doing. That's a weird thing, but it's true, though. Think about it. And think of somebody that accuses you all the time. What do you suppose is their problem? They accuse you of gossiping? Well, they're gossip,
Good
right?
point.
Think about it. So they say that the world out there, the League of Nations, the world empire, false religions, Babylon the Great, because they're liars. But the truth is, these guys are the liars. And they're
Yes.
accusing everyone else of being the very thing that they actually are. That's how it works, guys. Be careful what you accuse other people of, because if you really look at yourself, you're actually committing that same crime. Most of the time, that's the way it is. So be very, very careful. And so they are accusing us, the world, the nations, and then they became a part of the, what is it called? The nation?
League of Nations. United Nations.
Yes, the very thing they condemned to hell.
Disgusting thing standing in a holy place.
And they joined it. I don't know that they still are. It doesn't matter to me. The fact that they ever did at any point means they got in bed with the government.
That's right.
Which is the world empire, false religions, and their government, Babylon the Great. And so, guess what? They're liars. And why do we not want to see that? Why will we stick our head in the sand and say, no, it's not so? They're just, like you said, they're just men who, made mistakes just like we do. No. If they say they're speaking straight from God, they had better be a lot more, I don't know, something different.
And that's what gets me. They've showed themselves to be liars. They've showed themselves to be people who don't care. They've made God out to be a liar, right? because God said it was going to be over. I'm just talking later. I mean, I know this goes back 100 years, but just say 75, right? I mean, what is that, 30 years ago?
Yeah, see, the young people don't even know about these previous prophecies that have not come true. Do you?
When the stadiums were full and, it's going to happen, here's the signs and all that, and 75 passed and a whole lot of people got hurt.
So you young people...
and I'm going to say this, a whole lot of people got hurt by who? God hurt them, right? Because God is the one who gave the Watchtower the spiritual food, right, to deliver at the proper time. So God screwed over all these people. God lied to these people. God said 75. Well, actually, God said, well, I'm going to give you a little more light. I'm going to tease you a little bit. Let's give you just a little more light. The generation prophecy, 70 or 80 years from 1914, Revelation book, right? We all went down and ran down to the assembly and we got the Revelation book. We underlined it. It was full of, Matthew prophecy, about seeing the signs. They're all going to happen in one generation. 70, 80 years is one generation, right? And so we preached and preached, and then all of a sudden there's some new light, right? You hear, what? New light, more light? Jehovah, you got something else for us?
Different light, more light?
Yeah, and he's like, yeah, it's gonna be overlapping. The generation is gonna be overlapping now. And so this is what's funny. Here these crazy narcissists, not humble, authoritarian stick handlers,
alcoholics,
blind guides, still consciously, now think about this, consciously lying, reading teleprompters. You know what I mean? It's disgusting. I got to tell you.
And Dan, I've heard them slurring their words.
Oh,
when they're
yeah,
speaking.
especially Morris.
And Dan, listen, don't everyone know that alcoholics, heavy-duty alcoholics, are also liars? It just goes hand in hand. They do all kinds of things they should not be doing. And watch out for severe alcoholics. Be very careful. And here you have leadership who are alcoholics. OMG. That's all I can say.
And I just wrote down a couple of things, for Jehovah's Witnesses to think about. Does Jehovah use liars? Say that's his name. Say, okay, I agree, that's his name. But would he use liars? Really? Would Jehovah false prophesy? Would these be the best he has? Really? Would Watchtower be the best he has? And since you've given your whole inheritance to Watchtower, right? You've given your time. Your time is worth something. You are worth something. Your energy is worth something. But you've given it all to Watchtower. Do you think that Jehovah really would use false prophets? Do you think he'd give you partial truths? No, I don't think so. And do you think Jehovah needs a hater? He needs someone like Tony Morris to threaten you? Really? Do you think Jehovah needs, okay, Tony, you tell him, you better, what did Tony say? Won't you be glad when they're all dead? We're going to kill all my children. Using Tony to be a hater.
Meaning all those who have left the church, right, guys? That's what he's talking about.
Yes.
Your own children that have left the faith.
Yeah.
Aren't you going to be so glad when they're gone?
Yeah, and breaking up families.
Oh, man.
Think about
That's
it, people. I haven't talked to my brothers in years. Because of these people, because of these nutcases. I haven't had a relationship with them, and they haven't had a relationship with me. Isn't that disgusting? How long will you do it? Do you think Jehovah needs to break your family up? Do you think Jehovah needs you to fear him? Really?
And what have been the results of doing this? Has it brought the family back? Their whole idea is that we shun them so that they will repent and come back. Well, has that worked? I'm just saying, has it worked? And even if they came back for a little while, I bet they didn't stay long, did they? Think about it. They didn't stay long. Then they saw the corruption again, and they just, I don't know, they just never came back. They just fell off on the wayside. Guys, it has not worked. So guess what? If it's God who's giving the idea to shun that severely like that, throw your young kids even out the door and shun them severely, has it worked?
No.
Is that how God would work? Did God's plan work? Did this plan work? No, it has not worked. It's further divided. It's made people go crazy, mentally ill, take heavy-duty psych drugs, depression drugs,
yes.
every kind of conceivable thing because of false teaching. of men, and they say they're from God, and they say their words are from God, and their ideas are from God, the words in the Watchtower are from God, all the directions are from God. You better listen to us as your life depends on it, because it does, as if it's from God, and yet it's ruining lives, and that's the real fact of it matter here.
Exactly. And just think about it. So they had the great sell-off. Now it's the great build it up again.
Yeah.
That's what they're going back into. Now it's time to build 15,000 more Kingdom Halls. What's that center, that big center they're doing? The media center. Those couple of media centers, years and years out, right? Years out. And millions and millions and millions of dollars.
And, when you take, a million people, and let's say a million people each give $5. What do you have? If everybody gives $5, you have $5 million. $5 million, right?
If everybody gives $1,
If everyone gave $1, what if they gave $5?
Yeah.
That's 25 million. That's right. So, whoa. You guys, think about it. So they know this. See, we can't conceive of this. That's how fast they could build money. But they need it, or they're not going to survive. And that's why they're having to do this. That's the real deal. They don't want to lose their kingdom. They don't want to lose their homes, their power, their authority, their respect, their honor, their legacy, whatever they want to call it. They're afraid of losing that. And so look how quickly they could build it. They could get $5 million in a snap of a finger. And if everybody gave $1.
That's right. And that's what got me. I think it's the audacity. Did you know that they were going to sell your halls you built? I'm talking to Jehovah's Witnesses. Did you know they were going to sell your halls? No, you had no idea. Did you know they were going to take the titles and then sell them and have a massive sell-off? And now they're saying, we're going to build halls again, brothers. Manipulating you. You want to see those kids in the paradise, don't you? You want to see that little girl you lost, little boy you lost. Yeah, you know what I mean? That really bugs me.
Me too. What bugs me more than anything is what they intend to do with those precious children.
Well, we don't know.
Well, I'm just saying what things we saw that have happened at the headquarters. It's just despicable. It makes me concerned. Anyway, I'm not going to go down that road.
No, we won't go down that road. But I just want to say because that's not absolutely, I want to talk about things I absolutely know. But what we do know about that road is that they are asking these kids at the media center to sign their lives away, right? They're saying check off everything, that they're not liable. Watchtower is not liable.
Well, they did have that court case just recently, Dan, where those elders were pedophiles. And then right on the heels, literally before that verdict came down, this guy said that he worked at Bethel and he saw all kinds of horrible things being done sex-wise. He heard and saw with his own eyes what was going on with these little kids, that they would give the tours, they would eye out the young girls and the young boys, and then they would somehow get them there, and then they would sexually do things to them. And he witnessed it. He talked about it on video. We put that out to everybody, and then right that very day, later that night, came out the verdict of 3 elders being convicted. I think they worked at Bethel. Is that right?
Or Pennsylvania somewhere.
Okay, yeah. Pennsylvania, that were pedophiles. I mean, you guys, it's rampant in here. So anyway, a really big problem, concerned about that media center, where all the money is going to be going to, and that they're going to be using kids as actors and actresses, keeping them on the grounds of the media centers as little small cities to do this work without their parents a lot of the time.
So it's going to be a private gated.
Yeah, just like it was in Bethel. Parents would come with the kids and the tours. Then they would spot them out, invite them without their parents. They were not with their parents at this time, and then they did all this stuff to them. Always these young kids in certain age, young teenagers, and so you guys,
not suspecting. They wouldn't suspect anything being that young. They're in Jehovah's organization. Jehovah's clean organization.
Yeah, clean, right? Not
spotless.
True. We have a good friend, Dan and I, who has stories to tell that he won't tell. That's incredibly horrible, beyond horrible, and beyond horrible. And he was in Bethel a long time, him and his brother, been horribly abused, horribly. You can't even believe it. But you guys, you can just say, we're liars, you're liars. No, we're not. There's tons of these. All you got to do is go on the internet, do a little bit of research. You'll find it all over the place. So don't stick your head in the sand. This is the truth we're telling you. We're not making this stuff up.
Right.
This is very real.
And what I would want to say to the Jehovah's Witnesses is I think it's time to go into the bathroom, grab a glass of cold water and throw it in your face. Yeah. And ask yourself, what are you doing?
Amen.
You don't need to sell your family. You don't need to pass out any more outdated watchtowers that are false prophecies, channel literature. You don't need to support these men who have shown you what they are. In fact, the Bible tells you, get out from amongst them, or you will be manhandled. You will be handled with the stick. You will be told to get out there and get out in service, right? You will be told to send your kids to Bethel, and build their media centers. You will be told to build more halls. You'll be able to do the same thing over and over and over for the carrot that you never received. The carrot they said would happen in 75, generation prophecy a few years later, the overlapping a few years later. Promises, promises, promises. Do you really need the promise of a liar? I mean, can you imagine you've invested your money and this man stole all your money, which is all your time and all your assets and all your
How about life energy? How about life?
Life energy, yeah. That's why I say they're worth something, right, Angela?
Right.
And so for these guys to continue on is just despicable.
It is.
And I just like I said, I gotta wonder. Now I'm wondering what's wrong with the people, because this is like mainstream. The pedophilia, the children, all this stuff happening, like Angela said, all this stuff is exposed. It's all out in the open. And you've been told what to do. You've been told to get out of there, stand on your own. You don't need to be propped up by Watchtower lies.
Or by men, period.
Yeah, you're being propped up by men. You've sold enough. I just want to say you've sold enough, you've given enough, and you've received nothing. And how can men that are liars give you anything? Jehovah don't use liars, right? God don't use liars.
Besides that, it says that we're not to put our trust in men in whom no salvation belongs.
That's right. Isn't that interesting? I love that scripture. It's one of my favorites. But it says, do not put your trust in nobles, nor the sons of earthly men, whom no salvation belongs. Yes, Stephen Lett says you better listen to us like your life depends on it.
So guess what? He's teaching wrong, right? And one other thing, Dan, is this is a really sad fact, but Dan and I have talked about this before, but literally, which we'd have to go into a big thing about it, but the way that they teach is actually producing pedophiles. So, if you are a pedophile, know this, that it's not all your fault. It's been built by the Watchtower's way of teaching, and that will be a whole other subject matter. But the thing is that when you are abused, the fact of the matter is, typically, if you don't get help, you then become an aggressor and abuser yourself. They have made this. So don't blame yourself entirely if you're caught in the middle of this. But know this, God will help you if you really want it. He will heal you. He will pluck out what doesn't belong. And he'll heal you. But the fact of the matter is, we do become aggressive when we've been manhandled. And you have been manhandled like no tomorrow. And you obey to the nth degree. But see, you become like them. You become like them. That's the way it is. And so that's why Dan's been saying, and God says, come out of her, my people.
Come out of her.
Do not be a part of her works.
If you don't want to be abused, if you don't want to be conned, if you don't want to keep giving away your property,
if you don't
want
want
to keep working for them, if you don't want to be threatened, if you don't want to be however these men treat you, because they do really believe you're slaves. They believe they're the anointed and you're lesser class.
Good for nothing slaves, matter of fact.
And what you're doing, you ought to be doing. You don't question them. You don't do anything. If you want more of that, then I guess stay in, close your eyes to the truth.
Keep calling yourself a good for nothing slave.
But you don't have to. I say this all the time. If you leave, your life is waiting for you. Your life that you were meant to have. You were meant to have a life. You were brought here by God, right? You didn't birth yourself. You were birthed. God knitted you together in the womb to come here to do something wonderful. And it wasn't just to promote, bad men. It wasn't to promote con artists. And that's what they've proved to be. And if you had a con artist and you gave all your money to him and you talked 20 people into giving all your money to him, right? And they lost it, why would you keep promoting them, right? That's what's happening. You keep investing your money in a date, right? You've invested your money in 75, you invested your money in the generation, you invested your money, you even threw your family in there. I'm going to disown my family because they left because they were tired of investing in this bad investment, right? Well, you'd be called crazy. You'd be called crazy if you kept doing it. They'd think, man, there's something wrong with you. And so that's what I'm asking witnesses to do today, is to look in the mirror. Don't be afraid. Even the Bible says in Deuteronomy, it says, if anyone has false prophesied, which the witnesses clearly have, it's in all their literature for everyone to see. And if that's the case, it says, do not fear these ones. And what does Watchtower do? It's all about fear. Their game is fear. Everything is fear. Fear them. Fear Jehovah. Fear losing your life. Fear this. Fear the world. Get ready to have your to-go bags ready. You better listen to us like your life depends on it. Won't you be glad when they're all dead? It's fear, fear, fear-mongering. And that's how they keep propped up. But you don't need it. You don't need this kind of crap anymore. That's not God. They've made God into a man. They've made God into man's image. That's not the God I know. The God I know is loving and supportive, and is helping me overcome my lower nature, right? All of us, it's helping us overcome. It's patient, desires all to live. It's not a tyrant God waiting to genocide everybody like the Watchtower says.
Not at all, no.
So do you want to say any more? I think that's about it, guys.
Just the fact that Dan's right. I mean, God does not promote fear. He doesn't rule by fear. He doesn't teach by fear. He doesn't use fear in his teaching and training and leading and guiding through the Holy Spirit. That is not the way that Dan and I've experienced it at all.
No.
It's the opposite, actually, literally the opposite. That's how come we know something's terribly wrong here, because this God who's leading us now is gentle and supportive and encouraging and uplifting and tries to, in every way, is positive and leads us in the way of positivity and believing and speaking positive things, not this fear-mongering way of being in life. This is not God.
He doesn't make it to where you feel like you're never going to get back. And they just fellowship you and put you in the back of the hall.
Not at
Those
all.
people wonder if they're ever going to get back.
Yeah.
They write letters and beg and beg and beg. That's not in harmony with anything in the Bible at all.
No. And in case you don't know this, because you maybe experienced it, you've been waiting now a year and you think, why are they doing this to me? Why am I being singled out? I didn't do anything that bad, whatever it is, right? Well, just know this. In every congregation across the whole world, they do the same technique. The same long waiting period, hoping you'll never come back. That's the real truth, guys, because you might cause trouble. You might say something. You might, cause other ones to fall away because of what you might say or whatever. Because when you're alone and you're not in the congregation, you're out in the world having to make association with them because you have to survive. And when you do that, you start to realize what's going on that's not right here in this church, and you start waking up because you have no other choice. You're sort of out in it, and now they're afraid of you because if you come back, you're going to cause problems. You're going to say something. You're going to have an independent attitude, and it's going to cause them trouble. So it's best to get rid of you, and that's the real truth of the matter. So, you don't want to face that maybe, but that's the real situation here. So
anyway, guys, that's it. We just wanted to share that with you. It's just some things to contemplate, think about. Use the video any way you want. Pass it around. Let people know. Give them some things to think about. We got to start thinking about these things, right? When we've been in a cult, we just have this scriptural projection of Watchtower that sort of hangs over us. But we can reason it. We can look at it in the eye and say, wait a minute, is this really true?
Yeah.
Is these things they're telling us true? Have we been lied to? And really look at them without the voice in your ear of Watchtower and doing what do they call that? Doing damage control. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Watchtower is always doing damage control from Brooklyn. No, don't think for yourself. Now don't do this. Now don't do that. Now don't start thinking. That's Satan's world. I just cannot believe it. That's why I did this video today, because I cannot believe that Watchtower still is trying to do the same thing, trying to, still conning without repenting, without stopping. It's unbelievable.
Maybe sit down for a minute and just contemplate what we've been talking about here right now. Just sit down in your living room chair and just sit quiet. Be still and know that I am God, the Lord says. And just see what comes to your mind. I say, Lord, would you just dawn on my mind some other things that maybe I haven't thought of that they didn't mention? Could you just maybe expand this a little bit in my heart, cause me to realize some things about it, whether it's that we're wrong or that we're right. It doesn't matter. Either way, just sit down and say, is there any truth to this, Lord? And just see what comes to your mind, because that's how God talks to me. I ask, and thoughts will come to my mind. A scripture will come to mind. A book I should go read comes to mind. What I maybe should do will just dawn on me. That's what happens. But sit quiet and ask the questions. Are they telling the truth, Lord? Please dawn on my mind. Cause me to run into people, books, something on TV. I don't know what, Lord, you know. But Jehovah, whatever you want to call him, it doesn't matter. God knows who you're talking to. And just ask and see. Okay? That's all we're asking. Because we love you. Why do you think we're wasting our time on a weekday to tell you this? Because we really, really do care.
Yeah, there are things that popped in our mind, things that that we've reflected on being out. Right. So that's what we want to do, is just share them with you so you can reflect on them. Right. Okay, guys.
We love you.
We love you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.